Okay, I think we are live here. Welcome everybody to our Facebook Live. We have Kyle Whissel with Whissel Realty on the call here. So, Kyle, thanks for joining us. And, guys, I just want to remind everybody here really, our goal with these calls is to add value to you all, our community of clients and friends. That's the purpose. And we try to bring people that are the best in the business. And just interview them to go over things. If you have questions, you can send them to me. But we have Kyle Whissel. I'll give a quick intro here. So Kyle, I've known Kyle for about 10 years. I knew him way back in the day when he was really just getting going in the business. And it's so interesting to me to really see people that, a lot of people say they're going to do things, talk a big game, and the percentage of people that actually go out and do it is very slim, right? And so Kyle's one of those guys that started from the bottom, totally self-made, and has worked his way up to being the number one team in San Diego County in terms of rankings. His team's ranked number 76 in the United States right now by the Wall Street Journal, Zillow, and Trulia. His team is on track to sell more than 300 homes this calendar year. That's basically a home a day, guys. That's, right, 31 closings in the month of May alone. And, you just can't get a more top producing, high level real estate team leader than Kyle Whissel. So Kyle, thank you so much for being on our call here today, and excited to chat with you, man.
Yeah, dude, we've known each other a long time, which is kind of cool. Like, it's fun to do these journeys together. You've grown and you're massive now and you're killing it. And you got a bunch of disciples out there now, which is really cool to see, dude. So it's been a fun ride together.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks. So, yeah, man, let's kind of rip in right away to, I always like to start with, kind of what's your story? I feel like we can give people tactical information all day long, but at the end of the day, people want to know what people's stories are, So what happened, man? When did you get into real estate? Why'd you get in? How did you get the vision to become just a massive beast? Not that that's kind
We're losing a little bit of connection. I don't know if that's my end or your end, but story-wise, dude, I grew up in a real estate family. My dad started selling real estate here in San Diego in 1979, which was before I was born. He primarily focused on the commercial side of things, did a lot of apartment buildings, did some shopping center stuff like that. Growing up, I wasn't always the biggest fan of real estate. My dad, as a high producing realtor, was always very, very busy. Sometimes that meant maybe missing a game or being late to something, some of those things. So I wasn't always the most fond of it. But my dad pushed me really hard while I was in college to buy some real estate. And at that point, that was in the early 2000s. And all you had to do was fog a mirror and you could get a loan at that point. So I fogged a mirror and they gave me a $500,000 loan with no money down. And I bought a property. I sold that property 3 months later, and I netted $17,000 from that sale.
Nice.
And at that same time, I was scooping popcorn at a movie theater. And so I'm sitting here and I just got like a nickel raise at a movie theater, and I got a $17,000 check from real estate. And so at that point, I was like, man, I never thought I would want to get into real estate, but 17 grand when you're in college, it's hard to resist. And so I talked to Pops and was like, all right, man, let's talk about this real estate thing a little bit more. So the first 5 or 6 years, I was 19 when I bought that house. First 5 or 6 years was just working with him on the commercial side, assisting him. A lot of the business that we were finding ourselves doing was selling apartment buildings to developers who would take them, gut them, redo them, and then sell them off individually as condos. There was a ton of money getting made in that space here in San Diego. And unfortunately, there were so many condo conversions happening, the city started putting rules in place that made it impossible to do them. Because what was happening is somebody would convert a building that had 8 units and they'd make a ton of money. Then they'd go get a 16-unit building. Before you knew it, people were taking 500-unit buildings and converting them over to condos. And so we were running out of rental inventory. So the city kind of shut that down. And all my investors at that point were saying, hey, Kyle, I can't go buy these apartments anymore if I can't convert them, because the numbers just don't make any sense. You know, the prices got driven up so high by all the converters that the rent to price ratio or cap rate just made no sense any longer. And so then my investors were looking around and saying, you know what, if I can't buy these apartments, I could go buy some of these, you know, short sales, some of these foreclosure houses. They're cheaper to buy a house than it is what I'm paying per door for apartments. Right. And so I started looking around and I saw some of these people, you know, on this girl's got 200 short sales. This guy's got 100 foreclosures. Like, that was crazy because I was still at that point, you know, like my mid 20s. And in commercial, I was closing like a deal every 2 or 3 months. And here these people are in residential closing a deal every, you know, 2 or 3 days. And I was like, man, that would be so nice to, you know, get that consistency. And I saw there just wasn't much happening in the commercial side of things. So at that point, I branched out and left dad to start my own thing on the residential side. And so that was in about 2008. Yep. First year in business, I did 24 deals, second year, 42 deals, third year, 82. Then we had a big leap year to 242. And we've consistently been selling 300 plus homes a year now from that point forward. Last 3 years, we've done over 1,000 transactions, over $500 million in volume in the last 3 years alone. Most of what I did when we first got in was a lot of short sales and a lot of foreclosures. That ship has obviously sailed. So we've been doing a lot more traditional business, a lot of farming and community-based stuff, a lot of past client marketing. And, you know, now we've got things like iBuyers coming into town. So there's a lot of shift that's happening with that.
Yeah, no doubt. And I want to talk about the shift. And before I get there, you know, I'm a big believer in it is way harder, and maybe you agree or don't agree with this. I think it's way harder to get somebody from 0 to 100,000 in income than it is to get somebody from 125 to 250, you know, even though that's bigger growth, because that initial getting it started, the fear you have to overcome, the am I even worthy to do a lot of transactions? There's a lot to get over. And, you know, I'd even say going from 0 to 100,000, because once you hit that $100,000 mark, and whether that's 24 or 30 deals a year in San Diego, depends on where you're at. And hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I know my internet connection is not great for some reason. But so to get that initial 24 deals year one, a lot of agents don't come out and do 2 deals a month and do 24 deals for the year. What allowed you to, make the transition from commercial over here to residential? What did you do? How did you just go out and do 24 deals your first year?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is finding people that are smarter than you. I mean, that's the number one thing to do is don't go out there and try to figure it out on your own, because you're just going to run into one roadblock after another. So, you know, you want to surround yourself with people who've been there, who've done that, and are willing to share what they're doing. So back then, I found a group of guys that were brilliant when it came to short sales. And I learned the systems from them, exactly what they were doing in their markets to go out there and crush it. And I just took those strategies and applied them in my markets and landed a ton of short sale listings. I mean, we were printing out letters, you know, we're getting lists of people that were in default, and we were sending letters directly to them, and they would call us and we would list those short sales. Nice. And so I just surrounded myself with people that were, you know, crushing it in the space where I wanted to be. And then next thing was the REOs, or the foreclosures. And so I did some research, and everybody's like, hey, you got to go to these conferences. This is where all the players are. So I started going to the 5-Star Conference, the Rio Mac Conference, things like that, meeting the people there that are crushing it and learning what they were doing. And then took those same strategies and applied them here locally. So then I started getting a lot of the REO accounts, and ultimately I got Fannie Mae Direct, I got HUD. I mean, we were working with all of the big you know, asset management companies out there. And then the business started to shift over to traditional. So then, you know, I started doing a lot of stuff with the Tom Ferry organization and learning from people within that organization what they were doing with their traditional businesses. Now the iBuyer thing is kind of the next big wave. And the brokerage game's changing a lot too. I mean, I ran my own independent shop for 13 years. And we moved over to eXp Realty a year ago because we really started to see the brokerage game change. You know, it's not the brokerages now are not the same as they used to be, 10 years ago, where all it was you're just paying for a brand. I mean, now we are the brand. The
Right.
brokerage is really there to support us and help us grow our business. Well, I never joined a brokerage because all they ever did was tell you get to use their brand. They were never doing anything to help me grow my business and sell more houses.
Right.
But when I saw EXP come along and saw the collaboration and stuff that was happening there, it was a no-brainer. And now to get to associate with, geniuses in the space like, Jay Kinder and Michael Reese and Chuck Fazio and Curtis Johnson out in Arizona, and just so many amazing, smart people, and getting to associate with these people on a regular basis and now learn from them, on what they're doing to go out there and to crush it in their markets, has been really powerful. And, the iBuyer thing, again, that's something that's coming. It's not big here in San Diego yet, but it's coming. And so I've been spending a lot of time talking to the people in the markets where iBuyers are big. A lot of friends in Arizona, a lot of friends in Texas and in Minnesota and Florida, where the iBuyer thing's very big. So I've already been doing that same strategy I've always done, which is surround myself with the people that are already doing it, so that I can be ahead of that curve. So when the iBuyer thing comes to San Diego, we can be at the forefront of that and really understand how to utilize the opportunity to grow our business.
Yeah. To me, like everything that we're saying, and I'm going to ask some questions about the iBuyer thing, just for people that are tuning in that don't even know what that means or what's coming or whatnot. But to me, what I'm seeing too is not only are you voracious learner and not afraid to go outside. Like one of the problems I found is a lot of people only want to learn from like their parents or like people in their sphere or whatever. And you're like, like you said, friends with Jay Kinder, Michael Reese, different people, like you're going to the big national events, you're learning from the best, and you're not afraid to go reach out to people who are the best. And one thing that I feel like one of the reasons people don't do that is they feel like people that are the best are not going to be accessible. Whereas what I found, I just had a hour-long call with Rick Ruby this past week. He owns and runs the Core and Summit Funding. And he's like, hey, man, people don't ever approach me. He's like, you'd think people would approach me, but they don't. It's like, I wonder how many people have called Kyle Whissel this year to do a Facebook Live. It's not many, right? And so I feel like not only are those top people accessible, but when you go after them and try to get help from them, they actually want to help you. It's actually a compliment. It's flattery. And so where does that come from, man? Like, not only are you super prepared and you're always looking for what's coming next, but where does that insatiable hunger to learn from the best come from? How did you develop that?
I'm trying to think of where I developed it. I don't know. I think it's just when I got in the industry, probably just advice from my dad, I guess I would say, right? I mean, I learned a ton from him. He made me into an amazing negotiator. Like, shit, dude, I'm like, if there's a fire, most realtors are like running away from the fire. I'm running into it. And if that fire is negotiation, like that's the way I look at it. So many realtors get in this industry because they want to show pretty houses and drive fancy cars and wear expensive clothes and stuff. But they don't want to actually, get dirty and get in the ring and get into a tough negotiation with somebody, where I enjoy that. I thrive off of it. I get a high off going into a negotiation. It's really fun for me. So my dad taught me that, but he also taught me, from the very beginning in commercial, I got to be a part of these circles with some of the top commercial agents, across the country. And so like, I was, just accustomed to that from the day I got into the industry, was always surrounding myself with people that were better than me and learning from them. And I just found over the years that people are always willing to share, but I've also found they're only willing to share if you're going to implement. So I have people reach out to me all the time and they'll ask for advice, and I'll give them advice. And if they take it and they run with it, I'm willing to give them more advice and more advice. But if I give you advice and you don't do shit with it, sorry, I'm not going to help you again. But I love, pointing people in a direction and watching them run and go with it. And then just keep improving and improving and improving. Like, I have an insatiable appetite for improvement. And a lot of it comes, like, my deep why is I watched my mom pass away on her deathbed 10 years ago. And God willing, we all get to pass away in a deathbed, right? I mean, hopefully that's the way we go, as opposed to some of the alternatives. But thinking about, there's going to be a day I'm going to be in that bed, God willing. And what are the thoughts that I want to go through my head when I'm in that bed? And I never want to be in that bed and think, I wish I would have tried harder. I wish I would have pushed. I wish I would have, gone after this or gone after that. Like I never want to be in that bed and have those regrets. And so I live every day with that in the back of my mind, to where I'm obsessed. Like it is literally insatiable. It's an obsession. I always want to be a better version of myself today than I was yesterday. And I want to be a better version of myself tomorrow than I am today. And I'm obsessed with constantly improving and getting better. And that's what fills my cup.
Yeah, I love that, man, because the urgency thing, and it's interesting you bring up the death topic, because a lot of us are going around like we're never going to die, and people don't have the urgency of, like, when you actually start to add it up, like for people that have family members abroad or whatever, it's like, okay, if we see them twice a year and they only live for another 15 years, wow, we only have 30 more people that we love. Like, people don't live with that kind of urgency of like, this is going to end. And so a lot of times I feel like it's okay to use that. People, instead of ignoring that there's an end that's going to happen, actually, like, a lot of people intellectually know that they're going to die, but they don't internalize it where it's actually a reality. And you don't use it from a place of living paranoid and scared, but you use that as an urgency thing to be like, I have X amount of years left. I have X amount of good years left. What do I want to do? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to be with? And allowing that urgency. When you have that urgency, you're not afraid to pick up the phone and call that mentor or go to that conference or take that risk, or do, run that marathon. Like you said, you go towards the struggle. We were just talking before this call. You have a vacation coming up that includes running a marathon and a Spartan race at back to back, right? That doesn't sound like vacation to a lot of people, right? That sounds like insanity. Whereas I understand that when you run to the struggle, that is good, because from that struggle on the other side, like you were saying, not only is there satisfaction, I make the argument you can't have satisfaction without struggle, but also you get to meet that better version of yourself on the other end of the struggle. So a lot of people run away from their sales calls. They run away from negotiation. They run away from doing the hard workout. They run away from struggle, where in reality, you can't have joy and satisfaction and fulfillment without the struggle. So why do you think it is that people don't run towards the struggle, and why do you sprint into the fire that is negotiation, sales calls, getting good mentors, running marathons? Why do you do that?
I think some people, to a certain extent, have a fear of success. I know everybody always talks about the fear of failure, but people also have the fear of success. I mean, there's something massive that we're working on right now, which I can't give all the details, but there's something massive we're working on right now, to where if we get what we're working on, it's going to require me to hire another 20 plus people in a month. And most people, they just see that and think like, now, if I get this and I have to hire 20 people, it's because my business is going to explode to levels I never even imagined. Right. And so for me, like, that excites the hell out of me to be in a position that I need to hire 20 people so that I can get to this level I never imagined. Like, I get super excited about that. But other people, they think like, oh my God, but if I get it, then I got to hire these 20 people. And then I got to do payroll, and I got to do this, and I got to do that. Like, they freak themselves out about getting to that next level. So instead of, getting excited about the opportunity to get to this, whole nother world, they fixate on the fact that, oh my God, I got to hire 20 people, and I'm going to need more office space. And now I'm going to have payroll, and I'm going to have benefits and this and that. Like, so a lot of people are fearful that they want to get to this level, but there's so much that's going to have to happen in order to get to that level. They get so fixated on all this, they lose sight of this up top here.
Yeah. And to me, the top has its problems, but they're better problems. What you're really doing is you're evolving the level of your problem. That's a good problem to have. Need more office space, need more people to hire. Would you rather have that problem or the problem of, I haven't sold a house in a couple of months and I have no listings coming? Like, what problems do you want to have? I just closed on a 28 unit property 5 weeks ago. And it's so funny because some people in my sphere that I love are like, oh, you're going to have complaints and you're going to have all these tenants and this and that. And I'm like, good, because I don't want your problems of like really fighting for an extra 3 PTO days next year, right? It's like, right. What problem do you want to have? If you're willing to evolve that problem, yeah, it's going to come with some stuff, but they're better problems to have. Oh, I have lots of tenants and lots of rent coming in, and that comes with some responsibilities. That's better than, again, having to go negotiate for an extra 4% raise with 5 PTO days, right? And so people lose sight of, yes, there's problems with the evolution of bigger goals and bigger things, but those are better problems to have. It is better to have too much business than not enough business. It is better to have too many people than not enough people, right? And so I think people, like you said, the fear of success, they don't realize that their problems actually are going to get better. And they also don't see themselves as worthy of having those higher quality problems. I feel like there's a worthiness issue as well. A lot of people get flat at, making 150 grand a year, whatever, because they don't see that they're worthy to get to that level of 300, 400, whatever. And maybe that's not their goal, and that's fine. But if you realize that it doesn't necessarily have to be harder and that you are worthy, that's when everything starts to open up, right? So anyways, yeah, I love that. Fear of success. So let's talk a little bit to kind of shift it. I do want to go into, for people that were maybe lost at the beginning here, of the iBuyer. So what do you mean by that? That shift coming up? Again, there's always shifts, right? From REO short sales back when we met to traditional, to team selling, to the brokerage model. Now iBuyer. If you could tell somebody that's never heard that term, what does that mean? What should they be on the lookout for? Even if it's not big here yet, tell us a little bit about that if people that know nothing.
Yeah, for sure. So, iBuyers are internet buyers, right? That's where the I comes from. And so the Wall Street has realized that people will pay for convenience. The best analogy of a company that runs this model of convenience, paying a price for convenience, is CarMax. If you think about when you want to sell a car, you've got a couple options. You could go trade it in at the dealer, but we all know we're going to take a massive, massive haircut when we sell our car or trade our car into the dealer. So then we think about, well, I could put my car on Craigslist or whatever other websites out there, and I could do that, but then I'm going to have to deal with all these people that are calling me. And then I got to coordinate times for people to come look at my car. And then when they come look at my car, they're going to want to take it for a test drive, but I don't know this person. Do I go on the test drive with them? Do I give them the keys and let them go drive it? And hopefully they come back. And then what if they actually want to buy it? Then how am I going to get the money? And what's the paperwork that I have to do? And all of that stuff. And it gets to the point where people are like, screw this, I'll just go trade my car in. Well, CarMax came in with a better model to eliminate all those concerns, but still give people a decent price for their car, where you could just drive in, within a short period of time, they'll give you an appraisal on the car and they'll give you an offer. And that offer stands for, I don't know how long it stands, but a couple of days, I think. And you could just say, all right, cool, I'm going to sell my car to CarMax. And it's going to be more money than if you traded your car in, but it's going to be less money than if you dealt with all the issues of going, the Craigslist route. And so Wall Street saw that there's a similar opportunity in the real estate space, because right now the options for people are, one, sell to one of these investors, but these investors are buying properties at 65 to 75 cents on the dollar, or you put it on the market. But then when you put it on the market, then you got to deal with repairs, you've got to deal with showings and open houses and negotiations. And a lot of people don't want to deal with all that, just like they don't want to deal with selling their car on Craigslist. So Wall Street has pumped a bunch of money into, some different companies out there. The biggest player in the space for a while has been Open Door. You've got OfferPad, Knock, and Zillow's really stepping it up huge right now. And so you've got all these players, and most of them are backed by Wall Street money, and they're coming in and they're filling that void. And so now when somebody wants to sell their house, and sometimes people do it because they want to be discreet, they don't want it to be public, or they don't want to deal with all of the headaches of a traditional sale, you go on this website, punch in your address, upload a couple photos, and it's going to spit an offer out to you almost immediately. Most of these websites, some will spit it out immediately, some will be a day or two, but it's going to spit an offer out. And these are, as is offers. You can close whenever you want to. They're just a no BS kind of approach, just like CarMax is when you want to get rid of your car. And now you're going to get significantly more than if you sold to the typical investor who's buying at 65 to 75 cents on the dollar. So it gives people a way that want to sell, but without all the inconvenience, to still get a decent price for their house.
Got it.
Now, are you going to get full market value? Of course not. But you're paying a price for convenience, but now you're not paying this massive price like you used to have to sell to an investor at 65 to 75 cents on the dollar. Most of these guys are paying somewhere in the neighborhood of 85 to 95 cents on the dollar.
Right. Got it. So what do we do? And people have seen this coming for a long time. We're talking about Jay Kidd. I remember the red alert kind of thing they put out, like Zillow's, like even Redfin, right? I see a lot of that in San Diego, in our area. 1% list your house, no hassle, whatever. What do people do right now to make themselves more valuable, to wow their clients, right? To really, business is about innovation, right? You have to continue to innovate in order to stay relevant. Otherwise, you're just gone. So what do people do right now with this shift coming? We all know it's coming. People can deny it and complain about it all they want. But how does one do what you're doing, which is saying, okay, this is happening. How do I set myself up for success? What is an average agent out there? And hopefully the agent is not average, because step one, don't be average, right? But what does somebody do to prepare for this shift that's already really starting to happen?
Yeah, I mean, the best thing, like I said, what I do is surround myself with the people that are already doing it. I mean, we're fortunate in somewhere like San Diego that we're not the first one to this party. Like Arizona, Phoenix, Scottsdale, that area, that's kind of ground zero. All of these iBuyers have kind of started there. There's a ton of it in Texas, a ton of it in Minnesota, a ton of it in Florida. So I've been spending a ton of my time associating with the people that are in those markets and learning everything I can about those programs before they even exist in San Diego. I mean, there's Redfin is kind of doing their iBuyer thing, but it's very discreet in San Diego. There's no big players in this space yet. But we know they're coming. Right. And so the best thing you could do is learn how these programs work from the people that are in the markets where they exist. I mean, that's first and foremost. And then second is figure out what are people in those markets doing to work with these guys. I think the biggest mistake people try to make is trying to fight against them. And that's the worst mistake. These guys have multi-billion-dollar valuations. They've got hundreds of millions of dollars of Wall Street money. You're not going to beat them, okay? I saw somebody post on Facebook recently, like, hey, I need a referral to an attorney. I need to sue Amazon. Like, exactly, you laugh, right? Right. The people that think they're going to beat these iBuyers, it's laughable. Just don't, guys. You're not going to sue Amazon and win. Maybe you could. It might cost you your entire life. Right. But it's laughable to think about trying to sue Amazon over a purchase, right? Well, it's laughable to think that these iBuyers are just going to disappear. But at the same time, they're not going to wipe realtors out. They're going to take a decent chunk of the market, because there's a decent chunk of the people that are willing to take a little bit of, to pay a price for some convenience, but not everybody's going to be willing to do that. In fact, in most of the markets that these iBuyers are in, usually only 3 to 5% of the people who they make an offer to actually accept it. That means 95 to 97 out of 100 are not accepting those offers. Right. So one of the things that I recommend everybody does is figure out how can you partner with these iBuyers. Most of them will partner with you as a realtor and make it to where you can go in. Let's say you have a listing appointment coming up. You can go on their website and they'll give you an offer on the property. And now you could sit down with your seller and give them a couple options. And you could say, hey, if you want a quick sale, you don't want to deal with open houses, showings, repairs, all that, I've got option A over here, which is this offer from Open Door. Or we could go the traditional route, and this is what we could do. And now you could lay those options out side by side for them. Right. And again, we know statistically 95 to 97 out of 100 are going to say no to this option, and they want to go the traditional route. So that, and the other thing is that, when Open Door goes in, Open Door can only present Open Door's offer. OfferPad can only go in and present OfferPad's offer. But most of us, we have this fear of FOMO, fear of missing out. Well, I don't necessarily want to just talk to Open Door and get their offer because I have this fear of missing out on a higher offer. But now Open Door can't give more than one offer. Open Door can only give Open Door's offer. But we could work with Open Door and we could work with OfferPad, and maybe we could even work with a local investor. And now we could go in there and present them 4 options. And we could say, hey, you could sell the local investor for this, Open Door for this, OfferPad for that, or we could go the traditional route. And now you gave people those options and you get rid of that FOMO, that fear of missing out that a lot of people have. And now you're doing something that those iBuyers can't. So that's another strategy. And again, think about, you could maybe include that in your marketing. Like, hey, reach out to me and I'll sit down and present 4 offers, 5 or 10 or 20, whatever, however many people you want to partner with. But now you could work with those iBuyers, and sometimes people are going to take the iBuyer offer. Cool, do a deal. You just made whatever their percentage is that they're paying at that time, but you didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to spend any time, any money, and you made yourself, a percent or whatever they're paying. And boom, quick, easy deal.
Yeah.
But majority of the time, they're going to be like, no, that number's too low. Let's go the traditional route with you. Bam, done deal.
Yeah. And it's kind of the philosophy that's going in my head is don't compete, collaborate, right? Like, how can you leverage these things? Most people want to complain about it and fight it and all the rest of it, where it's like, how can I use this to my advantage, right? That's the question to ask. And it's just what I'm also feeling too, like just from what you were saying right there, like if I was on the other end of that, I'm going with you, because what you just came off of to me is a consultative salesperson, right? You didn't come off as some butthurt salesperson that's bashing the competition, right? Which some people are and do, right? You came off as a professional consultative salesperson. Here are your options. Here's the reality. I feel like you're looking out for me, giving me my options, educating me, and that you're there to do what's best for me. And I feel that just listening to you right there. And so what am I naturally going to do? I'm going to work with you. Right. And if I don't, in that 3% of the time, like you said, you make money, there's no bad issue, whatever. And maybe they have a bad experience with the iBuyer. They decide not, and they're still going to come, back to you for more business. But what I felt right there is a consultative salesperson. And that's the highest level kind of selling you can do. A lot of people try to peddle. A lot of people try to bash things, whatever. That is not how, if you want to come off as the expert advisor, if you want to come off as the best of the best, somebody they actually want to work with, come from a consultative salesperson perspective, learn about them, educate them on their offers, be there truly for them. And they can feel that you authentically care. And then they're naturally going to want to work with you, I found most of the time.
Yeah. And think about what's going to happen with this is you now just laid out, let's just, in that scenario, we laid 4 offers out on the table for this person. Do they even feel the need to go interview another agent anymore?
There you go.
You just laid 4 options out.
Yep.
Most of the time they're interviewing you and 3 other agents, but now you came in, laid 4 options on the table. You just reduced the probability of them interviewing any other agents significantly because you already gave them 4 options. Now they don't have to go meet with 4 realtors. A lot of times they're just going to meet with you because you gave them 4 options already. And now it's just a matter of which of those 4 options is best for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And they can feel that authenticity, right? People aren't stupid, right? So you're talking about San Diego, we're dealing with high median price points. We're dealing with a lot of money here. And, at the end of the day, they can feel if you're giving them the truth and you're leveraging the truth to your advantage. And you truly are, no BS, looking out for them because you are giving them their options. So it's a win for the consumer. It's a win for you. It's a win for the iBuyers because you're actually showing their option. It's a win for everybody versus just fighting and fighting. It makes no sense.
Exactly.
So yeah, love that, man. And so I want to kind of switch gears here a little bit because, you being a great marketer, being a great salesperson, again, we were talking about being a consultative salesperson, being a professional salesperson. I feel like there's still a huge lost amount of business with people that are not paying attention to their past clients and their relationships. And they're building a transactional wheel that never grows instead of building a database that's based on relationships and relational business, which can actually be something that spits out 50, 60, 70% repeat referral business long-term. And a lot of people are missing the boat on that just because they don't do the little things. They don't make the call. They don't send the birthday video. They don't try to be of value and of service. They don't realize that the beginning of the relationship happens when the sale closes. That's the start of the relationship, not the end. So tell us a little bit about, how much past client business you do, kind of your philosophy behind it, and where you maybe think some agents are leaving a lot of money on the table, just ignoring relationships that they already have.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a fun topic because I think what a lot of people don't do is look at what their cost of sale is. How much money does it cost you for every sale that you complete? And what you're going to find is that you get your cost of sale depending on your market and what your business is based on. A lot of times it's going to be $2,500 to $5,000 is going to be your cost of sale in most markets. Well, think about, when it's like a Zillow lead or a pay-per-click lead, a Facebook lead, stuff like that. those tend to have a very high cost of sale. That first transaction always has the highest cost of sale.
Right.
A lot of times we're break even or making very, very little profit on that first sale. Where we really make the big profit is on the subsequent sales and the referrals, because the cost of those sales is so damn low relative to, like Facebook. Crap, man. I mean, we convert those at a fraction of a percent. Right. So, we're paying what, $5 a lead, and we got to follow up with, hundreds of those to convert a single transaction. I mean, the cost to do that one transaction is so damn high between the hard costs and the soft cost, or the time. But what is the hard cost and soft cost to generate repeat business, to generate referral business? The cost of sale is so low on that business relative to the internet leads. And so people really need to look at that in their business and understand cost of sale. And for every deal you do from Facebook, how much is it costing you to get that one transaction versus that one transaction from a past client? The profit margin is, it's damn near infinity, on those repeat and referral deals. And people don't look at that all the time. They just look at how many deals they do. Right. There's the vanity metrics. I was actually having we'll call it a difference of opinion with an agent yesterday. And they were like, I don't want to see the GCI number on the board. I don't want my agents to see my GCI. I only want them to see my how many sales and what the volume was. And I was like, dude, those are the vanity metrics right there. Like, who cares how many sales you're doing or what the volume is? If you're doing 1,000 sales at a 1% commission, who cares? Or if you're doing 1,000 sales and it cost you, $5 million to do those, who cares? The net profit ultimately is the most important number, but the GCI is important too. If somebody's doing 1,000 sales, but at 1%, that's not the same as me doing 1,000 sales at 2.5%, right? So we got to know our numbers, and we got to know what's our gross, what's our expenses, what's our net. And a lot of people don't look at that. They get so fixated on the vanity metrics of how many units, and because that's how we get ranked as realtors, is how many units and what's our volume. But that doesn't really tell the story of what kind of a business we're actually running. So many people don't know their numbers. They have no idea what their cost of sale is. And if they even know it, they maybe know it. They'll just say like, oh, well, I spend $10,000 a month and I do 3 deals a month. Okay, well, your cost of sale is 33, right? Like there's an easy one, but that's not really the story. We should know what our cost of sale is for a Zillow lead versus a Facebook lead versus a pay-per-click lead. And then when you start looking at your cost for a referral, you're like, holy crap, like my cost per closing on that is virtually nothing. Meanwhile, my cost per closing on Facebook is, $5,000. So you got to know the cost of sale, and then ultimately what's your cost per closing and your profit, all of that fun stuff. And you'll find, every good business, the top 2 lead sources should be, and typically will be, past clients, or we'll just call it your database, and referrals from that database. Then number 3, 4, 5, then that's where it's like, maybe it's Zillow, maybe it's Realtor, maybe it's open houses, maybe it's expireds or whatever. But the majority of real estate businesses, the top 2 lead sources are going to be your database and referrals from it.
Right. And I would also add to that too, it's just a more enjoyable business to run. Like, what's the ROI on running a business where they're not kicking you in the face every time you got to negotiate over your commission? They don't trust you. All of a sudden you lose. Like, it's just a more enjoyable business to run. Yeah, it's more profitable. It's less work, but it's just like, if you got to work with people that liked and trusted you 70, 80% of the time, what does that feel like every day? That feels like a better business. Also, I would like to make a movement right now. Maybe we should get Tom Ferry on this call immediately. I want to get rid of plaques for volume, units, all that BS. I've been tricked by seeing big GCI numbers for many, many years. And what people what people need to get plaques on, like the way I wish this introduction with you went down was, this was Kyle's top line revenue last year. This was his net profit. Here we are with Kyle Whissel, right? Because that still is going to beat 99.9% of agents. But that way they're actually seeing the numbers. People, it's like a disease. People get so caught up in the trophy and the plaque, and there's, the 1099 disease of nobody knows their expenses or their numbers or what's going on. legitimately, this is a business. What matters is, yeah, your top line revenue, but also what did you keep, right? And I don't want to give you a plaque if you did 6 million GCI, but your profitability was 2.7%. You're not getting a plaque for that, you know? And so there's a lot of ego, there's a lot of trophies, there's a lot of plaques. But at the end of the day, if the topic of money wasn't so taboo, I would have been like, Kyle, send me your W-2 from last, or send me, your taxes from last year. That's how I'm going to introduce you. But because that's taboo, nobody talks about it. Nobody focuses on it. And agents end up doing a lot of business and they don't make a lot of money. So what are some keys that we'll kind of shift there? And personally, I have some thoughts on spending time with your P&L and your money and actually looking at it. What are some things an agent can do to shift gears into that? And we can kind of wrap up with this topic in order to get more profitable, right? You're out there grinding, you're loving on your clients, you're building a good database, you're building a referral-based business, you're looking at those Facebook leads, and then, okay, I'm going to close that sale, but then I'm going to turn them into a client for life because the lifetime value when they come back to me of that client is going to be way higher. But how does an agent right now this year, they're doing a good amount of deals and they're just like, where's all my money going? How do they start to get more profitable? What do they need to do?
Yeah, the most important thing is you got to know your numbers. I literally used to brag to people and they're like, oh, what kind of money did you make last year? I'm like, I don't know. When I go see my accountant to file my taxes, that's when I find out how much money I made. Like, I used to brag about that, man. It was crazy. So the number one thing is you got to know your numbers. You've got to have a system that you track your expenses, how many leads you generated, how many you converted. So you know these things. What was your cost per lead? What was your conversion rate? What was your cost per closing? What was your return on investment? We use Sisu, SISU. We just started with them like 6 months ago. I freaking love their system. Every other system out there for like tracking and managing your sales organization just sucks. Some of them are trying to take like an Excel spreadsheet and make it work. Or there's just other systems that aren't real estate specific. But this is a real estate specific system for managing your sales organization. Nice. So that you know, how much am I spending? What's the cost per lead? What's the cost per closing? What's my conversion rate? What's my return on investment? You got to know those numbers, because an example would be like, we used to do a lot of leads from Craigslist. We used to get a ton. Like, that was a thing, like when Boomtown first launched, that was where most of the leads and deals were coming from. But then Craigslist changed how it worked and everybody stopped doing Craigslist. And we were like, hey, everybody's zigging, we're going to zag. Let's go back hard on Craigslist since everybody got off of it. And dude, we were generating leads for like $1 or $2. Right. You're like, this is amazing. We're getting so many leads. Well, at the end of the year, when we sat down and analyzed it, we had generated 1,400 Craigslist leads and closed one. Think about that, dude. That means we followed up with 1,399 leads that did not convert. I mean, you're talking, that was like a fraction of a percent closing. But we wouldn't necessarily know that if we weren't tracking our numbers. We might just think vanity metric, oh, I'm generating leads on Craigslist for $1 a piece. But you're not making shit off of that because you're spending so much time to follow up with all those leads. And you don't even realize you're not actually closing anything from it. So you really got to know your numbers. You got to track lead sources like crazy. You got to track your expenses, because we realized this is stupid. We can't do this anymore. Cut that off, shifted a bunch of our spend back to Zillow. We love Zillow because it's the highest conversion rate of any lead that we generate, outside of referrals. It's like our highest conversion rate of anything. The cost per lead is higher, yes, but the conversion rate is significantly higher. And so we know what our cost per closing is. We know what our conversion rate is. We know what our return on investment is. And it makes a lot of sense. We just increased our spend with them even more because the conversion rate is so high. And so that Zillow's another one that people are always trying to fight against instead of trying to work with. And so we work with them and we're making a ton of money off of it. And we're just embracing. I mean, every time they make a change, more people get off of Zillow. And we're like, cool, bye. It creates more opportunity for us. So know your numbers, track them, use a system like Sisu, SISU. Use a system like that so you know your numbers, and then you can be smart about where you're investing your money and make sure you're not blowing money on things that have little to no return on investment.
Yeah, I love that. Get a system, guys. We'll post we'll post that in the show notes here. So if you guys want to get on that, and if you, I don't know how much it costs. If you feel like you can't afford it, I would argue you can't afford not to. But one easy thing you can do, kind of my tip, is just start looking at your P&L. Like, you should have an accountant. If you don't have an accountant, again, if you're going to be in this business, you have to have one. Just start looking at your numbers. Do it once a quarter. It's better than looking at it never. Spend 5 minutes time block every Friday to look at your credit card statement. Hopefully you have a business account and a personal account. Spend some more time with your money. People are not spending time with their money. If you don't give it attention, somebody else will have their hands on it. You'll notice, like Kyle's saying, you'll notice expenses that either aren't working because they're not converting, but you also notice expenses that we stopped using that bondage service 6 months ago, or that Mojo dial or whatever, and we're still paying for it, right? These things all add up to big amounts of money long term. And again, we as business owners, it's just as easy to do as it is not to do. It only takes 5 minutes to look at the P&L, to look at your credit card statement, et cetera. Put a time block, put it on the calendar, and just start doing it. Ideally, have a system. And then, Kyle, we're going to wrap up today. I just want to get maybe your one or two quick tips before we wrap up here on living a balanced life. A lot of people do a lot of production. You're one of those guys that's massively successful, but I know you're a family guy and you're physically fit. You're a well-rounded guy. Tell me a little bit about kind of work-life balance, what that looks like for you, the importance of it. Maybe you don't believe in it at all, but tell us a little bit about, you're not just doing real estate. How have you been able to do physical fitness, family, success in real estate? How do you balance it all, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I think, the best thing to focus on there is just my morning routine. I used to wake up around like 7 o'clock every day and then get into the office between like 8 and 9. But I was also going to sleep around like 11 or 12 every night. And then at one point, this dude, Sharon Srivatsa, super smart guy out of Orange County, LA area, he came out with something called the 5 a.m. club. And a bunch of my friends were hopping on and they were like, this thing's amazing. You should hop on these calls. And I was like, dude, I can't get up at 5 a.m. Like, I get up at 7. Like, you guys are crazy waking up at 5. But then somebody was like, dude, what time do you go to bed? I was like, 11 or 12. They're like, cool. Go to bed at 9 or 10. Just go to bed 2 hours earlier. Because in reality, what am I doing from 9 to 11 or 10 to 12 at night? Is anything good happening during that time of day? Like, never. I'm probably either out drinking or I'm watching TV. Right? Like, my daughter's asleep. Like, there's nothing good happening that time. But now, instead of those 2 hours with nothing good happening, those 2 hours that I get up earlier are nothing but good is happening during that time. So I typically wake up at 4:55 every day. I hop on that 5 a.m. club call. It's just a 5-minute little motivational message. And really, it's just to turn my brain on. Just gets me going every day. As soon as that's done, I exercise 3 days a week. I ride my Peloton spin bike. 2 days a week, I go to the gym. Then I come home, shower, and then I hang out with my wife and my daughter for an hour or so before I head to the office. So by the time I get to the office, my brain is on from the 5 a.m. club call. My body is on from, my exercise, and my heart is on from spending time with my family, to the point where when I do show up at the office and everybody else is like, oh, I need to go get my Starbucks, I'm so tired. Like, I'm in here, headset on, and I'm just crushing because my entire system is fully functioning at that point, to where now when I get to the office, I can be super effective while I'm here. And then I just obsess over the little things with time. Like, I don't ever go to lunch unless I'm going to lunch with somebody. Like, there's no point leaving to go to lunch, because with things like Uber Eats and DoorDash and Grubhub and all that stuff, like, I can get whatever food I want brought to me. Why am I going to go waste 30 minutes, leaving the office, grabbing food, or an hour and coming back? I'd rather spend that 30 minutes or an hour getting home earlier and spending that time with my family. So I kind of have a rule for myself. There are days you need a brain break. You just need to get out of the office, but I never go eat alone. Like, there's a book called Never Eat Alone. I hate eating alone. It's a waste of time to me. I'd rather get home and spend that hour with my family. Yep. And then the last thing is I pay for time. I get home between 5 and 6 pretty much every day, because I have a huge support system. I have like 10 people on payroll in my company, but I've understood, I used to have trouble delegating. Now, if anything, I over delegate. I've understood that I'm not the best at everything. There's people that are better than me at most everything. And I'm fine paying them money so that I can have a lifestyle that allows me to get home and spend time with my family. I mean, I love the fact that I get to go drop my daughter off, at school in the morning and come home and go swimming with her before the sun goes down. Like, I love that. So, is my profit margin the highest? That's definitely not. But I'm okay with it. I make the amount of money that I need to be happy, and to be happy is the most important thing to me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So many people want to use money just to buy more stuff, but at the end of the day, if you can use your money to buy more life, that's, it goes back to the deathbed conversation. You can't, that's the most valuable commodity. So love it. I have nothing else to add. I would only add in there for people that think they need 2 hours to wind down. Just take your wind down routine to 15 or 20 minutes, right? You can still relax, wind down, whatever. But at the end of the day, you're not doing anything productive from 9 to 11. Go to bed earlier, get up earlier. I just calculated with those lunches and with getting up at 5 a.m. instead of 7 a.m., you have an extra 17 weeks. If you work a 40-hour work week, you have an extra 17 weeks of work per year just by doing those two things. So you look at efficiency, you look at how you're able to do that. I mean, those little things that nobody's going to know about, they're just as easy to do as they are to not do. So love it, guys. Thank you for being on the Facebook Live, Kyle. Super generous with your valuable time, man. We appreciate you. We've known you for a long time, and always great to connect. So thank you so much.
All right. Appreciate you having me on. Yeah. If you guys want to stay connected, I can't add anybody else on Facebook, so follow me on Instagram, can connect there. And then we're always sharing little tips and tricks and stuff that we're doing within our business. We have a group here on Facebook called The Whissel Way. You can go to thewhisselway.com and that'll send you straight into that group. So we're sharing little bits and pieces from our office meetings, some of the technology that we're using, things that we're learning at conferences and stuff like that. So hop in there. I would love to share with you guys and stay connected.
Awesome. Okay, Kyle, thanks so much, buddy. Have a good rest of the day. We'll post all that in the show notes, guys, and everybody have a great rest of the week. See ya.
Later.